everybody, welcome to the Comic Game Movie Show. My name is Deshaun, and today I am here to review Captain Marvel. My bad, The Marvels. Now, there's been a lot around this movie. Oh God, this movie is coming out at a perfect time. Seems like Variety took this shit, like, I don't know what Variety's like gone out of its way to just put out a hit piece on Marvel right around this movie. This movie, I feel so bad for this fucking movie, dude. Not only do you got the super hardcore, the hardcore anti-SJW community, and you got the people like, oh God, I'll never forget when that first Captain Marvel movie came out. Just the discord around that movie was so toxic. I've never seen a comic book movie have such toxicity around it. Not like this. And I've said it before, there are comic book movies with actual criminals in it that got less toxicity around it than this movie. I mean, The Flash had someone who should be in jail and there wasn't this much toxicity around it. I've never seen that before. It was so fucking crazy. And it's like, coincidentally, it just happens to involve 3 female lead characters. And I would say that I'm just overreacting, but I think considering this very specificness of this, of the toxicity around this movie, it's just weird. It's just weird. And it's made this movie, and it's a weird franchise. It's made this character / franchise that's become this bullet point for people. It's honestly, my personal opinion, you can tell what kind of person someone, personally, almost. And I'm not saying this movie's above I'm not saying that these movies are above criticism. I haven't even gotten into my review of this movie yet. But you can kind of tell what kind of person someone is. But I've said this when Barbie came out. Between Barbie and this, I'm like, you can tell what kind of person someone is by their reaction to these 2 movies. But by Barbie and the old Captain Marvel movie. It's one thing if you're like, I didn't enjoy it, it wasn't funny, I didn't think it was that good, because of this, the plot, this, the villain, this. I'm like, okay, cool, I can jam with you there. We don't all have to agree on that. But the level of when people start going into it, it's man-hating, and I'm like, oh, okay, that guy I'm not hanging with. That guy, I don't want to be around that guy. And it's just weird how these movies just bring out that level of toxicity. But aside from the toxicity levels around this film, and aside from the weird, anger rant that Variety's been going on, what is the movie like? And I went to this movie because I've seen the reviews, I've seen people's reactions, and I came into this movie and I had two ideas of how I was gonna feel watching this. I was like, either A, this is gonna be Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, a movie which had terrible reviews and turned out to actually not be a good movie. Look, there are parts of that movie I do enjoy, obviously Jonathan Majors, but overall, it's not a very good movie. I ended up giving Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania a 5. Just for the people who wonder if I'm totally biased, even though I gave Ant-Man and fucking Secret Invasion low scores. I gave Secret Invasion a 4, in case you're wondering how bomb biased I am. Because I went to this movie thing and I was like, this is either going to be Ant-Man or Thor: Love and Thunder for me, which is Ant-Man was bad. Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania was bad. And I was like, okay, this is not a good movie. Thor: Love and Thunder, I was like, I had a blast with this movie, and I didn't quite understand why people reacted the way they did. It was confusing to me. Me and Superwise, actually funny, me and Superwise actually agreed on Thor: Love and Thunder. I was so confused about the reaction to it. I was like, I don't get. I saw it twice. I saw Thor: Love and Thunder twice, and I'm just like, I don't really get the reaction to it. It seems like a fun movie to me. I'm like, sure, could it have more time? I didn't give it a 10 out of 10. I gave it an 8, because I was like, yeah, it could have had more time. It could have did this better. It could have given more. It could have fleshed out the villain more. Christian Bale could have had more time to do more. They could have got more into the God stuff. I was like, yeah, they could have done more stuff, and it wasn't perfect. And at the end of the day, it's still not as good as it's still a sequel to Ragnarok, and it's not quite as funny as Ragnarok, and so so for that it's less original than Ragnarok. I had complaints about Love and Thunder, but I was like, it's still a fun ass movie, and I don't really get how people are so upset about that. So, which gets me to the Marvels. And like I said, I went into this movie nervous. Whenever I see bad reviews for an MCU movie these days, I go into it nervous. Same thing with Eternals, same thing with Yeah, with Eternals and this, like, I was just going to it like, I don't know, I hope it's not, I hope it's not terrible. And by the time I got to the end of this movie, I had to come to a realization that I don't give a fuck about what other people think. Because I walked out of that movie and I was like, is this the movie that people are like angry about? I can almost understand you. If you're tired of the MCU, if you're tired of that, I get it. Because I walked out of this movie like, just kind of seemed like a really fun time to me, a really fun sequel. It didn't reinvent the wheel or nothing. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying this shit's in my top 10 MCU movies. This ain't even in my top 15 MCU movies. Well, I would have to... No, it's not in my top 15 MCU movies. Probably. Well, it's at least not in my top 12. It's not in my top 12 MCU movies. But the fucking reaction to this movie, proportionate to the actual movie itself, there's literally like nothing in this movie that's like super bad. Like other than don't get me wrong, I'm not giving this movie a 10 out of 10. I'm not giving this movie a 9 out of 10. But it may be an 8 out of 10. And I kind of get it. I'm sitting there watching this movie, and the whole time I'm watching it, I'm like, all right, this is gonna be the shit that's awful. This is gonna be the part that's awful. This is gonna be what's awful. And this is gonna be what's awful. And this is gonna be what's awful. And in the end, the only thing remotely awful was the villain. And even then, she was just serviceable. She was just there. And if we're gonna really do this villain shit, we're gonna just pretend like Obadiah Stane in Iron Man 1 was such a groundbreaking villain. We're gonna pretend like Ronan the Accuser in Guardians of the Galaxy is a groundbreaking villain. I'm starting to get a distinct feeling that Marvel is getting graded on an entirely different curve than they used to. Because I watched that movie and I was like, if this movie had came out during phase 2, it would have an entirely different reaction than it is right now. I'm not kidding. Because I came out of this and I'm like, this is like, and I said it in my brain, I was like, this is kind of just textbook like MCU stuff. And I was like, that's it. Right now, people do not want fun. They don't want just not from the MCU. Other companies, other like superhero stuff, they could do it because they're fresh, they're new. People want serious from Marvel right now. They do not want fun. They do not want jokes. They do not want a blast of time. They do not want that. They want serious. They want dire stakes. They want that hard. That's what they want. And right now, if you don't give that to them, if you're not giving people the exact thing they want, they don't want it. It's not like back in the day when the MCU was fresh, it was new. The entire MCU, the concept of a cinematic universe was this new thing. So yeah, Marvel could just have a fun time. They can't do that anymore. You cannot get by on that anymore. But all that aside, get into the actual movie itself. I thought this movie worked so well because of the 3 lead actresses. First of all, I always say her name, Iman Vellani as Miss Marvel is the best thing in the movie. She is so lovable. She is so cool. She reminds me so much of Peter Parker Spider-Man back in like Civil War and Infinity War. Just the excitement to be here. And her and Monica, ironically, Monica's back and she's great too. Her and Monica actually make Carol more human. And the dynamic between those 3 girls, they truly feel like friends. They truly feel like colleagues. You can truly feel a bond between them. Now, could the movie have given it more time? That would be one of my other complaints. I got a couple complaints, but that would definitely be one of my main complaints is the movie could have used another 30 minutes. I think they could have used another 30 minutes to flush out the villain and give these girls more time. But for the time they were given, they did an amazing job of getting it across. And they did a lot of things with Captain Marvel's character. They explained a lot. They set up a shit ton of stuff in the MCU. So for anyone who's sitting here talking about well, nothing really happens. I'm like, what the fuck are you looking at? Not only did they set up Captain Marvel being back on Earth, being an Earth-based hero, they set up the Skrulls, all the Skrulls on Earth, because the remainder of the Skrulls are living in New Asgard. They set up the Young Avengers. The post-credit scene set up some shit too. There's a lot of stuff that was kind of set up in this movie. And I was like, they did a lot of, there's so many Easter eggs, so many things in this movie that's setting up the future. Particularly, like I said, having Captain Marvel be an Earth-based hero again, showing what happened to Supreme Intelligence, by the way, which was pretty cool, and also having Monica go the post-credit scenes, especially the setup for the Young Avengers. That's a big setup as well. And getting to see more of the Peak Space Station and seeing what that thing's all about. They set up a lot of stuff for the future. At least it seems like Marvel's kind of placing characters on Earth right now. They're placing a lot of characters who were space-bound. Actually, I think there were really only 2 human characters who were out in space, and they're both on Earth now. And I find that very interesting. There's also hints to maybe who bought the Stark Tower in there. There's a lot of things they set up here. But the best parts of this movie are the action sequences, because the setup of the movie is that the 3 girls' powers are entangled, so every time they use it, they switch places. And they do some badass shit with that. They do some really interesting, cool stuff with the power switching thing. That is super dope, especially in this one action sequence they put online with like one going this way, one going that way, poaching through and teleporting. Like that, the choreography for that was just so freaking fun. And Nick Fury's there, just being Nick Fury, just being an elder statesman, cracking jokes, cracking a wise joke, and just being overall fun. And the movie ended up being overall fun. Sure, I have my complaints about the movie. First of all, the villain needed more time. The idea of the villain was interesting, was very interesting, but the reality of the villain just didn't work completely anyways. But I liked the concept of the villain. Given more time to really, you know, just kind of smooth it out with the villain. They could have had a great villain on their hands, but not given enough time, ended up just being a forgettable throwaway villain. Also, the movie itself could have used more time. They really skipped by like the animosity between Monica and Carol by having Monica see her memories. Because clearly, by having Monica see her memories, now while I think that was actually done pretty well enough, they kind of missed out on some real dramatic juice of having those 2 characters at each other for a really good reason of Carol just disappearing. But finding out that, as it turns out, Carol didn't actually just dip out and never come back. Turns out she did come back. It's just Monica was gone when she did come back. And turns out Carol just didn't have the stomach to come back. She didn't feel good enough to come back. She felt guilty about some of the things she had done out there in space. It did kind of make a bit of sense. And finding out that, you know, Carol, like, cause you're thinking, like, when you hear how long she's been up there, you're like, well, how long did it take you to actually get back to Hala and just fuck shit up? Turns out it didn't take her that long to get there and fuck shit up. She really did. I always thought the sequel to Captain Marvel was gonna be about her in space doing that, but instead, they kind of skipped ahead a little bit, and it's about this woman who's isolated, who's kind of hidden herself in outer space, just kind of hidden in her job. And a lot of people wanted her to lose her powers and shit, but no, it ended up being, I still thought it would have been better to make it about a woman overextending herself, which they still sort of did, making a movie about a woman overextending herself. But I digress. And in the end, Carol ended up getting almost getting a second chance at having a little sister figure with Kamala that she lost with Monica. So there's a lot of interesting dynamics. And also, speaking of Kamala finds out the difficulties of being a superhero. That sometimes sacrifices have to be made. That sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do. Sometimes you can't save everyone, and sacrifices have to be made. So Kamala will be a much better hero after going on this mission, after being on this mission with her hero. So they set up a lot of stuff here. But the dynamic, but other than that, the movie needed more time. The villain was undercooked, and the villain was completely undercooked. And like I said, the movie needed more time. And there is a weird sequence with these people singing, which I know some people are losing their shit over the whole singing sequence. I wasn't crazy about it, which is why I'm not like gonna talk like, yeah, that was amazing. But the fucking scene lasted 5 minutes, and then he started talking normal. Calm the fuck down. Like I say, people just lost their patience with the MCU, man. People are just like, oh, I hate that. I hate the movie. I'm like, calm down. But yes, there is a weird singing fucking planet they go to that's weird. But like I say, it's like a 5-minute sequence. Fucking Monica and Kamala are in the background just making fun of the entire situation. Like, this is fucking ridiculous. So obviously it's a self-aware thing. It's not like they're asking you to take it seriously. But it still was like, oh man, this is weird. I was just like, just some weird shit they're doing here. But like I said, lasted a few minutes and it was gone. Oh my gosh, man. I ended up having so much fun with this movie. Like I say, and I felt like, I was like, when I walked out the theater and I literally felt myself, I was like, well, I'm gonna get some shit in my comment section for this. But I don't give a fuck. Call me a Marvel lover, call me whatever you want to, call me whatever the fuck you want to. I had fun with that movie, and if this movie came out in phase 2, it would have got a much better response. People don't want fun from Marvel anymore. People want grounded, people want serious. That's what they want. And maybe it's Marvel's fault for doing the same tone for too long that now people can't build. But if you were a fan of Ms. Marvel, if you liked Captain Marvel and you're a fan of Ms. Marvel, you'll have a blast with this movie. It's a fun time, especially if you're a fan of the Guardians movies too, because it does have a bit of that in there. Then you're gonna have a fun time with this movie. But if you're looking for something different, if you're looking for something to be changed in the MCU, if you're looking for something more grounded or darker or whatever, that ain't this movie. And if that's what you're looking for, you're gonna be greatly disappointed. But overall, for me, I had a fun time with it, so I give this movie an 8 out of 10. I had a fun time with the movie. Like I said, I went to the movie like either this is gonna be a movie that isn't that good, or this is gonna be a Thor: Love and Thunder situation where I'm like, I just don't get people, bro. Like I just feel like people went in there with an agenda. Like that's what it just feels like to me. But whatever. Anyway, thank you guys for joining me in Comic Game Movie Show. Please remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next one.